What happens when you turn a ruined coal mine into a home for hundreds of buffaloes? In Turkey, they tried just that, and the results shocked everyone. Within 2 years, a barren, toxic pit transformed into a lush wetland full of life. Frogs, birds, and wild plants returned, all thanks to the quiet work of these massive animals. This isn't just about saving nature, it's about rethinking how we fix the damage humans leave behind. And it all started with a herd of buffalo. Buried beneath the ashes, Turkey's coal towns fight to survive. In Turkey's Black Sea region, especially around Zonguldak and Amasra, coal mining began as early as 1848 and quickly became the backbone of local industry. For more than a century, coal was mined non-stop, over 328 million tons, leaving behind more than 114 million tons of toxic waste dumped into valleys, rivers, and even the sea. What was once lush green land turned into gray, damaged terrain. Between 1992 and 2000 alone, satellite images showed waste sites more than doubled. This wasn't just ugly, it was dangerous. The land started sinking. In Zonguldak, parts of the city are collapsing at a rate of 2.36 inches per year because of abandoned tunnels beneath the surface. Roads, homes, and buildings are at constant risk, but the problems didn't stop underground. Coal burning filled the air with sulfur dioxide and fine dust, some levels reaching up to 2.38 micrograms per cubic foot, far above safe limits. These pollutants caused an estimated 2,800 early deaths every year in Turkey, along with countless hospital visits and missed workdays.
In the village of El Madiri, mourners carry home the coffin of yet another son.
The damage reached the farms too. In Amasra, emissions from coal plants harmed crops like strawberries and hazelnuts. Heated wastewater was dumped into the Black Sea, raising water temperatures and killing fish. Fishermen saw their catches drop. Farmers lost their harvests. Meanwhile, landslides became a constant threat. 13% of the land in Zonguldak is at risk due to unstable mining soil. To make matters worse, illegal coal mining thrived. Workers risked their lives in unmarked tunnels with no safety rules and no rescue plans. Disasters followed.
An explosion and fire at a coal mine killed at least 205 workers.
In 1992, 263 miners died in Kozlu. In 2014, the Soma mine tragedy killed 301 workers. Making it Turkey's worst mining disaster. In 2022, an explosion in Amasra took 41 more lives. Despite these deadly warnings, many mines kept operating with little change. Locals began to protest. Some mining projects were blocked by courts, especially those threatening olive groves or tourist sites. But it took years for the public to push back. Now, as energy needs shift and the environment takes center stage, people are demanding a cleaner future. What once powered the country is now its burden. The coal brought jobs, yes, but also sickness, death, pollution, and destruction. The unlikely heroes, the unexpected helpers. Local herders and their Anatolian water buffalo emerged as unexpected allies in ecological restoration. Buffaloes are natural engineers. After mining ceased, rainwater filled shallow pits, creating makeshift ponds. Buffaloes instinctively gravitated toward these wetlands to regulate their temperature by standing and wallowing in water. While doing so, they churn the soil, dig microchannels, and distribute nutrient-rich manure. BBC reports describe them as giant living tractors, carving out channels between water-filled basins, enabling fish, frogs, insects, and birds to repopulate the landscape. This activity has a multiplier effect. Buffalo introduce insects stuck to their bodies, which become food for marsh frogs and wading birds. In 10 out of 12 buffaloes surveyed in Turkey, researchers found marsh frogs hitching rides, showcasing an ecological symbiosis where frogs eat biting insects and cattle avoid parasitic irritation. Seeds from native plants cling to buffalo fur or pass through their guts, getting deposited in new wetland spots. Grass and aquatic plant species germinate in these nutrient-rich environments, with buffalo manure acting as natural fertilizer. Over time, abandoned coal pits are transformed into flourishing wetland ecosystems, with insects, amphibians, plants, fish, and birds all making a comeback. This dynamic clearly shows how traditional herding practices and buffalo behavior inadvertently create rewilding zones, reconnecting fragmented habitats and boosting biodiversity. Turkey's water buffalo situation. Turkey's water buffalo, often called Anatolian buffalo, belongs to the river-type subspecies Bubulus bubulus and has been raised in the country for centuries, likely introduced from India around the 7th century. These black buffaloes, with backward curving arch horns, stand approximately 4 feet 6 inches tall. During their peak in the 1970s, Turkey's buffalo population numbered around 1 million. However, by 2010, widespread wetland drainage, agricultural expansion, and poor record-keeping led to a dramatic decline, down to approximately 85,000 heads. Due to conservation efforts and incentives, by the end of 2023, numbers rebounded to about 162,000 buffaloes. Food and Agriculture Organization. Statistical database models indicate that some fluctuations are expected. Most buffalo herding in Turkey takes place in small, family-run farms, especially in provinces like Samsun, Tokat, Diyarbakır, Istanbul, Bitlis, Muş, Afyon, Kayseri, Sivas, and Amasya. In Samsun province, for instance, buffaloes account for over 12% of the national total, with around 20,671 animals in the Bafra district alone. Economically, buffaloes have become valuable assets. Each produces around 2,500 pounds of milk per lactation, with milk containing 6 to 8% fat and around 4% protein, significantly richer than cow's milk. This milk is ideal for dairy products like mozzarella and ayran. Adult buffaloes weigh between 880 to 1,100 pounds and live for approximately 5 to 10 lactation cycles. Boosted by government incentives and rising demand, the buffalo population is making a comeback, not only feeding local economies, but also healing ecosystems. Their resurgence illustrates a broader narrative. When traditional animal husbandry aligns with environmental stewardship, large herbivores like water buffalo can be powerful catalysts for habitat restoration. Historical decline. The decline of wetlands and buffaloes. From the 1920s through the 1970s, Turkey undertook large-scale wetland drainage projects. Originally aimed at combating malaria, these efforts expanded under the 1950 Land Reclamation Law, which promised land titles to those who reclaimed wetlands. This state-led campaign drained hundreds of marshes, reed beds, and seasonal lakes, converting them into farmland and settling migrants in these regions. By the late 1960s, around 1/3 of Turkey's wetlands had been entirely drained, with another third slated for drainage. Between 1910 to 1930 and 2014, Turkey lost over 20% of its wetlands, more than 290,000 hectares, largely due to direct human activity, not climate change. By 2014, roughly 500 wetlands remained from an original 1,300. These policies left fertile land exhausted, groundwater depleted, and biodiversity severely impacted. Turkey's water buffalo population mirrored this habitat decline. In the 1970s, there were approximately 1 million buffalo. By 2010, their numbers had shrunk to approximately 85,000. A 2016 report from Hurriyet Daily News confirms a drop from 1 million to about 100,000 over 15 years, attributing the decline primarily to wetland loss. Grazing land diminished and water sources were drained, stripping buffaloes of essential habitats for cooling, feeding, and reproduction. Government intervention, state-supported recovery. Starting in the early 2000s, Turkey introduced a range of policies and subsidies to reverse buffalo declines and preserve wetlands. Under the 2016 animal breeding law, herders receive approximately $20 per adult buffalo, about $11 per 4-month-old calf, and around $16 for registration in breeding stud books. The Ministry of Food, Agriculture, and Livestock's reclamation of dairy farms by public initiative supported buffalo repopulation. According to news reports, buffalo numbers rose from around 100,000 in 2016 to 130,000 within 3 years. Despite this recovery, experts note that buffalo husbandry remains small-scale and concentrated in wetland areas due to poor market demand, limiting expansion. Institutionally, Turkey has also invested in wetland restoration. The country spent $1.7 million over a decade to rehabilitate 95 wetland sites, totaling over 1.08 million hectares. Ramsar site designation and the creation of wetland commissions have strengthened legal protections, though enforcement and water management remain ongoing challenges. On the husbandry front, breeding projects led by university heriter cooperatives, such as in Tokat, have boosted regional buffalo flocks from about 200 to over 1,000 animals in 10 years. These efforts, combined with milk prices of approximately 31 US cents per liter for buffalo milk versus 6 US cents per liter for cow milk and subsidies, aim to restore both buffalo populations and wetland ecosystems, creating positive feedback between farming and nature. Environmental rebirth. Buffaloes transform coal pits into wetlands. Buffaloes naturally like to wallow in mud to cool off and protect their skin. When they walked through the old mining pits, they stirred up the soil, creating small channels for water to flow. Their hooves pushed through hard ground and helped connect different ponds together. These movements helped water spread and made the land more suitable for plants, insects, and small animals. Buffalo waste also acted like natural fertilizer. Their dung added nutrients to the water and soil, helping plants grow. This new growth brought insects, frogs, and even birds to the area. What used to be a dry, lifeless land slowly turned into healthy green wetlands full of life. The buffaloes did all this just by acting naturally, without machines or human help. Experts call these animals ecosystem engineers because their actions rebuild nature. According to BBC Future, buffaloes brought back frogs, birds, and bats to areas damaged by mining. In the Kızılırmak Delta alone, thousands of buffalo roam freely and help maintain around 21,700 hectares of wetland. This shows how animals can heal the land, turning old, broken places into green, living spaces again. These wetlands now help fight floods, provide clean water, and support local wildlife. All of this was made possible because of buffalo behavior. The transformation has become a powerful example of how animals can help undo damage caused by humans. Animal interdependence. Frogs ride buffaloes to eat bugs. In the same Kızılırmak Delta, scientists discovered something very surprising. Frogs were riding on buffaloes. This strange behavior wasn't just for fun. It was helpful for the frogs and maybe even the buffaloes. The frogs involved were marsh frogs, and they were seen sitting on the backs of large water buffaloes. Why? Because buffaloes attract many flies and bugs. The frogs took advantage of this by sitting on top and catching the insects that swarmed around the buffalo's body. This gave the frogs an easy meal without needing to jump through grass or water. Sometimes, scientists saw more than 20 frogs riding one buffalo. They also noticed that the frogs stayed close during colder months. The warmth from the buffalo's body may have helped keep the frogs comfortable on chilly days. This is a real-life example of symbiosis, which means two living things help each other. In this case, the frogs get food and warmth. And while scientists haven't proven it fully, they believe the buffalo might also benefit. The frogs eat some of the flies and insects that would otherwise bite or bother the buffalo. So it may be a win-win situation. This type of relationship is rare between frogs and large animals. It's been compared to birds in Africa that ride elephants or zebras to eat ticks. But for frogs and buffaloes, this is a newly discovered behavior, first reported by scientists in 2017 in Turkey. It's a reminder that nature is full of surprises. The frogs and buffaloes show that animals can work together in quiet, helpful ways that keep the ecosystem balanced. As buffaloes move through wetlands, they not only shape the land, but they also carry little helpers who keep pests under control. Battling invasive species, invasive plants versus buffalo diet. In Turkey's wetlands, especially around the Black Sea region, water buffalo play a surprising and vital role in fighting invasive plants and restoring balance to fragile ecosystems. These large animals help manage aggressive plant species naturally through grazing and trampling, acting like living lawnmowers for landscapes overrun with harmful weeds. A key example is the giant goldenrod, a highly invasive species that spreads rapidly and chokes out native plants. A study published in Plants showed that when buffalo were introduced to graze these areas, goldenrod cover decreased dramatically, from 16% to just 1% within a few years. At the same time, native grasses and flowering plants began to flourish, creating healthier, more diverse environments. Buffaloes also consumes arundo donax and water hyacinth, two major threats to Turkish wetland ecosystems. These invasive plants can block waterways, crowd out local species, and reduce oxygen in the water. Because buffalo are not picky eaters, they chew through these tough plants, stopping them from taking over. According to sources, arundo donax is now known to be part of the buffalo diet, helping control its spread in Turkish wetlands. Beyond eating, buffalo trampling breaks up soil, creates shallow pools, and opens space for new plant growth. In places like abandoned coal pits in northern Turkey, buffalo have transformed stagnant and weedy ponds into open, plant-rich wetlands full of life. The BBC reported that this process helps reverse the damage caused by industrial activity, naturally managing the land without machines or chemicals. Rebirth of bird life. Birds arrive. A thriving ecosystem. As buffalo improve the land by clearing invasive plants, birds return to the wetlands in greater numbers. One of the most dramatic examples is the Kızılırmak Delta on Turkey's Black Sea coast. Home to over 12,000 buffalo, this area now supports more than 350 species of birds, including white storks, herons, cranes, and endangered species like the pygmy cormorant. Buffalo help birds in many ways. Their grazing keeps vegetation short and patchy, which is perfect for birds that need clear views to spot predators and plenty of open space to land and hunt. Short plants also allow sunlight to reach the water, supporting insect life and amphibians, which many birds feed on. In fact, buffalo indirectly boost food availability by improving habitat quality for bugs and frogs, which are key to bird diets. Interestingly, some birds form close relationships with buffalo. For example, white storks have been seen riding on the backs of buffalo to catch flies and other insects. Frogs do the same, jumping onto buffalo to snack on bugs. This mutual benefit helps both species survive and thrive, making buffalo part of a much larger web of life. Scientists have found that bird species that depend on wetlands prefer areas grazed by buffalo. These areas offer a variety of plant types and water levels, creating a mosaic habitat with lots of hiding, nesting, and feeding spots. Research published in Animals confirms that this kind of grazing is essential for the survival of waterbirds and their chicks. Buffalo wetlands and carbon capture. After buffalo herds began roaming the abandoned coal pits of northern Turkey, something remarkable started to happen. These lands began capturing and storing carbon dioxide from the air. Wetlands are among the planet's most powerful natural carbon sinks. They cover just 5 to 8% of the land, but hold 20 to 30% of global soil carbon. How does this work? When buffalo trample the muddy pits, they churn the wet soil and bury dead plant material under oxygen-poor water. This slows decay, so carbon stays trapped instead of returning to the sky. Their dung acts like fertilizer, boosting plant growth, especially reeds and grasses that pull in even more carbon dioxide. Research from places like the U.S. prairie potholes shows that restored wetlands can store about 1.3 tons of carbon per acre per year in the top few inches of soil. Coastal tidal marshes, also known as blue carbon wetlands, can capture carbon up to 50 times faster than tropical rainforests. In Turkey, wetland areas like the Kızılırmak Delta show great potential. These restored pits, fed by river or rainfall, are beginning to act as carbon sinks, right where coal was once burned. They are serving as low-cost, nature-based solutions that support global efforts like the Paris Agreement. This transformation is dramatic. Former coal landscapes are now natural tools against climate change. The simple strategy, bring in buffalo, let wetlands regrow, offers big rewards. People restoring old coal lands don't just help biodiversity and communities, they help fight carbon dioxide buildup too. Globally, scientists recognize the value of such nature-based approaches. They highlight wetlands as essential for clean water, wildlife, flood control, and carbon storage. Turkey's buffalo wetland model fits right into this international movement toward low-cost, natural climate solutions. Global contrast: Turkey versus Australia. How context defines buffalo impact. Today, about 12,000 buffaloes roam the Kızılırmak Delta, contributing to groundwater-fed mosaic wetlands. These attract migrating and breeding birds such as white storks, gray-headed swampins, and great egrets. Turkey's Ministry of Agriculture, alongside universities and the Buffalo Breeders Association, has boosted buffalo numbers from the dramatic low of 85,000 in 2010 to over 143,000 by recent counts. Financial incentives include $20 per buffalo, plus subsidies for calves, spurring herders to support wetlands rather than drain them. Institutional recognition is clear. Targeted rewilding projects harness buffaloes to maintain wetlands, regulate vegetation, and dig channels for fish connectivity. These initiatives foster biodiversity hotspots, notably reviving amphibians, plants, insects, and birds. By contrast, in Australia's Northern Territory, top end, feral water buffalo introduced in the 1820s to the 40s have become a sizable ecological problem. Abandoned settlements allowed buffalo populations to swell unchecked, up to 200,000 by 2022. CABI studies and government assessments document severe damage across savannas, floodplains, and rainforests due to buffalo trampling, wallowing, and grazing. Erosion, soil compaction, saltwater intrusion into freshwater systems, wetland vegetation loss, reduced tree canopy, and altered hydrology have all been linked to buffalo activity. Native species like magpie geese, freshwater turtles, crocodiles, and the dusky rat declined as floodplain habitats degraded. Studies highlight the unchecked buffalo as a driver of ecosystem collapse, creating swim channels and facilitating invasive weeds via grazing disturbance, fueling a feedback loop of degradation. Australia responded with the brucellosis and tuberculosis eradication campaign in the 1980s to 1990s, including aerial culls and ground operations to reduce buffalo numbers in key areas, such as Kakadu National Park. However, feral populations remain high, requiring ongoing management. We hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more amazing stories.